Gentlemen, my name's Paul Haddon. I'm part of the sales team at Sun Hydraulics in the UK, based in Coventry. What I'm going to present to you is 3 new things for 2017 with Sun. Has anybody used Quick Design previously? No? Okay. That's been around for a while, but we're taking it a step further with what we call Smart Connect. So I'm going to go into that development of it. We've also got our digital logic valves, and they are very, very different to anything else in the market at the moment. I hope you'll see that. Last but not least, the perennial problem of picking Sun counterbalance valves. And people here use Sun counterbalance valves? Okay. There's apparently 180 selections you could make. So we've put together a web-based selection program. Have you used that? So no, okay. That helps you filter that down. Are there any golfers here? No? There is? I've got something for you. Right. I've got something for you. You'll appreciate this when we get there. Right. I'd like to say the latest thing from Quick Design with Smart Connect is 40 years in its making. Does anybody recognise the stencil on the left-hand side? Yes? 40 years ago, that's all we had, a pencil and some tracing paper. Yeah, and if you were lucky as you went by, you got some gritty graph paper. So now I have a bit of admission. For all the circuits I've done in the 40 years, I've never used CAD. Perhaps a bit of an IT dinosaur, but nevertheless, I haven't. Anybody use Hydraw? Well, at Sun, they tried to get me to use Hydraw, and that was a marriage in hell. I think it was because picking up, putting it down, I just could not get to grips with it. So the reason to say it is to encourage anybody in terms of this tool, because Smart Connect is so simple, and now I would not do anything else other than a Smart Connect computer-based drawing. My customers, fairness, my customers have tolerated me. I'm sure they have over all the years when I turn up with my rough sketch of the circuit. And I do have to say I have worked for the sort of companies that do actually draw it up properly thereafter, but it hasn't been me. But I've found that the Smart Connect is so easy to pick up and use and so flexible. So I'm going to go back a bit before we do look at the Smart Connect a bit closer. Sun remains active in a whole host of sectors, from larger, low-quantity projects up to production machinery. And that's very different in the current market. We're holding on to it as long as we can. But if you look at manifolds, which is the bringing together of valves to cut down pipe work and such like, within Sun, and everybody else does the 3-letter body, the body for the cartridge, and then you pipe it up. But what Sun's done differently over the years is what we call Y assemblies. They're generic assemblies of groups of valves, pressure sensitive regen, high-low pump manifold blocks, hydrostatic drives. Those products are there, they're not all on the shelf, but they are readily available because all the designs are there for you to call off. But everybody is into designing custom manifolds, particular for the mobile industry. Not exclusively so, but heavily used in the mobile industry, and Sun's there too. What's different about Sun is that we freely use 5-axis manufacturing techniques when we make our manifolds. That stems from the design of the cartridge with the large hit areas on the side of the cartridge, which means we can use simple and compound angle drillings freely in the design of the block, cutting down plugs. It's making the block more compact. But because of the large hit areas, we can keep the angled hole diameter up. So we would boast, in theory, because integrating a manifold can be another challenge, is that we can produce a compact manifold without high pressure drops. Quick Design is an offshoot of that, because the thought was, can we put a design together, computer-based, save time, reduce designers, or whatever. Well, actually it works out is do another project, perhaps. Quick Design was also thought about in the first instance for our customer to make the manifold. They're not as compact, and they're 3-axis. Key being there, if your customer wanted to make the manifold, they could put it on a radial drilling machine, an NC machine. All our manifolds are made on 5-axis CNC machines. So quick design started its life. It used to have a series of inputs, connections, which wasn't ideal for the application engineer. This is a short video, which to say the golfers amongst us will love this.
Welcome to Quick Design, Sun Hydraulics' automated manifold design tool, now featuring Smart Connect, a new drag-and-drop point-and-click schematic design tool that will streamline your process from concept to solution. Quick Design is a free, browser-based program that allows you to easily navigate Sun's extensive cartridge functions and specify your integrated package requirements. And now, with the addition of the new Smart Connect schematic tool, you have a more intuitive and natural way to design your circuit. As you specify and build your circuit using simple drawing tools, the program captures cartridge, port, and feature requirements, including connectivity in the background. Once your concept is defined and you're satisfied with your design, just click a button to deliver your intelligent circuit to the Quick Design engine where all the fun begins. And the fun begins because the program designs the integrated package for you, so you can tackle the more important things you've been putting off. And in as little as 10 minutes, your design can be delivered to your inbox. And you get everything you need to manufacture the manifold yourself or submit to your local distributor for a quote on the complete integrated package. Have a hard time keeping it all straight? Quick Design does it for you. Product information for each design and each of its revisions is readily available in your secure online documents library. And we make the shopping easier too. Your local Sun distributor is ready to provide a quick quote for your integrated package, answer any questions you might have, and provide support every step along the way. And your new package can be delivered in as little as 2 weeks from time of order. Quick Design with Smart Connect. Seriously, the shortest distance between concept and solution.
So you golfers, do you want to take 5 minutes to sign up now before we carry on? But in fairness though, I think perhaps only in America, but for me, time savings like this means we can do another sale, another project. Better use of our time. Let's have a closer look. Right hand side there, the typical circuits you can now produce on the Quick Design program. To me now it's the language of the hydraulic applications engineer, those circuit drawings that we've been doing and throughout our careers. It's still free. Just go onto the website, sign up, and away you go. I think what I draw on is that it's an automated design, but it's also automated checking. Now, I was a designer of manifolds at the beginning of my career, and in the project type world, and many of my designs went out onto the shop floor unchecked. There simply wasn't time to do it. Have a quick look, seems okay. But you soon learned as well that one simple error in a block can render it scrap completely. And it tends to happen at the end of the machining process rather than at the start. And let's be honest, a scrap manifold is no more than a very expensive door jar or a paperweight. But lots of industries are working like that, taking that risk. So the fact that it actually designs it and checks it, I think is really an added benefit. Takes that worry away. Three, four, 5 cartridges you can put together and you can have a design back in 10 minutes. I tend to say in the UK if you did it on the morning, it might take a little bit longer on the afternoon. I think that's just because the States come online as well. I think it just slows it down that little bit, but it's very, very quick. For that, we'll also talk about that we can do manifolds up to 15 cartridges. Now that can be quite a complex manifold. Bear in mind with some of our size 3 and 4 valves, it could be quite a high flow. 400, 500, 600, 700 litres a minute. Something different again about Sun and its product range. But as far as the design's concerned, if you couple that 15 cartridges with 15 ports, and you're also able to think about where on a face you want a cartridge or a port to go. You can't decide where on the face it goes. But we call these design restrictions. The more of this you put in, undoubtedly the longer it's going to take. But I've done 10, 11, 12 cartridges. I might do it on the morning, and it might be the next morning when I get it, which I still think is a good use of my time, really quite speedy. And it's quite a complex manifold at this stage. You can get alerts, they'll come on the email. Typical one tends to be of no consequence, and it's because the computer has really just compromised the conservative wall thicknesses that we use. We tend to use about 5 millimeters. The design might throw up, I've got about 4.5. When you get that alert, you'll get somebody from Sun tell you it's either a problem or not. But a lot of those alerts aren't really anything for you to be too concerned about, but the computer will flag it up to be checked out. So when it kicked off, the idea was to produce a full set of drawings for our customer to go away and make their manifold. So you've got an arrangement drawing, you've got a step file of the arrangement drawing. You've got the circuits. The old circuits weren't very good at all. They were good for checking purposes, but you couldn't really show one to a customer or a colleague. You'd have the detail drawings the same way that we make manifolds. So you'd have the face of the manifold with the features on it and the dimensions, and then a tabulated hole details. Complete package for you if you make manifolds to do, or to give to your third party to make the manifold. But what we found was more and more people came to us to say, well, can we make it? And it's back in that area. We're still active, and our procedures work to tackle low quantities as much as it is to do those regular shipments out to large mobile customers. And that's a growing side of our business, is actually building quick designs for people. Quick designs, where are they useful? They're useful for the power unit builder, the onesie twos again, where space isn't a big problem because they tend to be a little bit larger than a Sun design. But they're also quite useful for prototyping. So rather than build a production machine up in the first instance with valves in the pipework, you can very quickly have a manifold to do it instead. And the beauty of that is it gives the customer a chance to see what this manifold looks like. I've had lots of customers at circuit stage saying, and I'll say, well, any requirements for the manifold? No, it's fine. You do a drawing and then suddenly it's, well, hang on a minute, what if I add this here and that there? Because now they think they've got something and they're thinking about how that integrates into the machine that they've got, a natural process. So you can have that manifold, it can cut time at your prototype stage. I have had some simpler ones go into production, but it's a good vehicle as well for trying to envisage how it would go forward as a full design from Sun for production. Right, I'm going to look more closely at the page you'd be working on. A lot of my colleagues do a quick demo, which is possible to do over the internet. But I don't think for the time I've got, it allows me to cover so many features that might be of interest to you to understand how this tool works for you. Press on that one there, which is a silhouette of a cartridge, and our library of valves comes up. I tend to do a rough circuit, and I'll put my part number in there and it'll come up. There's the part number. Click on there, it takes you to the web page for the information, full information on the valve. You can use the library to select the product, and I'm going to try and give that over the coming months. So I'm actually designing on this rather than doing my rough sketch before I proceed. The symbols come up, and you simply click, drag across, click drop. There's an orientation thing to think about, and I'll come back to that a little later. As part of supporting systems companies, perhaps simpler systems, but also if you want to be more explanatory about the circuit you're looking at, you go in here and there's a list of other items. Pumps, fixed pumps, variable pumps, actuators, motors, cylinders, double acting cylinders, filters. So you can actually produce a complete circuit for greater explanation of the controls that you're looking at. Orifice, there. If you want a quick design, the orifice is the MPT style. It's the only one we've got the tooling for doing this. As a Sun design, we've got a number of varieties. But with every one of those, it is sunk in the block, but there's a plug so as you can access it. And then you can engrave what you want on the top of it, so that if you want to change an orifice, you can do. And as you see, I've used one here to just damp down the flow to this proportional reducing valve. You can have just a cavity with no valve. Some people do flexible designs, change a cavity, or put a plug for one design, have the same design block, build it a different way. Because it'll now sit in the block, but it will be a cavity, not a valve. So we're losing a little bit of the meaning of the circuit. On top of that picking there, would you believe it, you can put a non-sun cavity on it as well. A competitor cavity is there for you to select from if you need to put it into your manifold. Draw a boundary around your manifold. There's mine there. There's a little quirky thing about the next one is connections, ports. You bring a port to the boundary and it works nicely like that. If you do it the other way around, you can have some drawing errors, the way it comes up, the orientation of the port. I see a lot of quick designs go through and they haven't clicked that bit, but it is there on the website telling you about that. But connections, ports. As an international business, every factory in Sun can make the same block. It's tooled up for our full range. So when it comes to ports, MPTs, SAEs, BSPs, flat face SAEs, there's a wide selection. There's no tooling issues for us to do them for you. You can even put an ISO directional valve interface on. Again, a non-Sun product. But again, we can't show the valve on here. We don't know what you've selected. So you get like, you put your interface on there and then you put your connections within it. But you can use it with ISO directional valves. The connections there, very simple. Click on your one there, click on your one there, and it'll connect up. You can have them in different colours. You can have them dotted for pressure lines, tank lines, drains, pilot pressures. All selections are there. Click on there and click on that one there. It'll draw the line straight in for you. If you come out of connect and click back on the line, it allows you to tidy up the circuit. You can move them around. Because in the first instance, it sort of takes a route that it wishes to do between A and B, but that might not be particularly presentable, but you can change that and tidy up the circuit. At the end of your design, you can pick the drawing sheet that you want. Options will come up. Your circuit will sit on it. If you pick too low, you need to change your drawing because you'll see the circuit doesn't fit on the sheet. You can move the circuit around on the sheet as well. One more click and you get a parts list straight away. So all your parts will come up, cross-reference to the design that you've done. Another click if you wish, and rather than put all your porting on, you can have like a porting table. So the stamping and the size, if you've got a number of them and you prefer that sort of way of explaining the connections. These here are, text box, bollards there. So you can put text box on and you can put commissioning notes, setup notes, any other notes associated with the job. These two become us moving into quick design. So actually this one, and what I'll do is I'll produce a circuit and then I'll just save or print it off. So I may not be doing a quick design. I'll do this for all the circuits where I can now. But if you want to go to quick design, click on there and this is where the restrictions come in. It'll ask you the questions about what faces do you want the ports on, do you want the cartridges on, talk about fixing holes. Again, keep that to a minimum. But if it's essential and there's a cost effectiveness in doing it, you've got the chance to do it. But the block will get bigger, more expensive, and take more time to go through. If you click on there, it'll go through to quick design. It locks at that stage because the process is going on. It might throw up some alerts. Again, they're intuitive as to what to do. This circuit here, as you can see, I've got 3 check valves. All the same part number for the same flow, and it threw up an alert to me that it needs to know an individual numbering. So I've had to change the stampings to 1, 2 and 3. It's things like that so that it can then process. But it'll keep throwing them up, telling you what the error is, and then you go in and just make your adjustment accordingly. Some of the pieces, I'll host a menu there for you to click on, right click, and adjust things on your circuit. You can configure your valve. That's change the seals, change the solenoid voltage, change the spring range, you configure it there. You can edit it. That tends to be about changing those codings. So where I've put the engravings for the check valves, I'll put my 1, 2, 3 on there. You can move it around, your symbols around, but you can do that anyway by just clicking and dragging. You can copy. I'll tend to copy from here over to there. So we've got 2 of them, I'll do it again. But actually you can just copy the valve across your circuit. So you've got multi-station circuits. You've got some time saving going on there. Of course, you can see there, horizontal axis. Well, both of these, the proportional valve and the throttle, both come up in the horizontal. So to clean up your circuit, you want to be able to flip it around, flip it horizontally or vertically, rotate it, and they're all clicks for you to do so to produce a professional circuit. Help. Oops. The video that we've shown is just a promotional one. That's on there. But on the help section, there's lots of explanation, but there is a much longer video that gives you really in-depth information as to the features and the benefits of it and how to make best of the tool. To complete this section, I just want to draw upon, we talked about that we can have non-sun cavities on the left-hand side there. We can have ISO interfaces, 3s up to 8s. I'm not sure there might be 10s. We know we can do 10. I'm not sure it's available on quick design. We'll find that out for you if it's relative, but it's obviously a high flow directional valves then. But what we're finding, it started with the can you make it, and it's developed into can you do an all sun solution. The product range now is so wide and so deep. There are some little holes in it, but the majority of control circuits you can do, instead of ISOs, you can do with sun valves. Now, why I'm promoting the use of sun here, but that's where we're at our most cost effective as well. So talking to our team about selecting products and then including them in our designs. Our directional valves, yes, it's certainly if you're moving and locking, we've got products that will compete with ISO 03s, certainly 5s and certainly 7s. Do that regular and double up spools and do 8s, C-top 8s. And if you want to lock it in position as well, the use of other valves will help. Proportional valves. You can use directional proportional valves by picking off your ISO interface. Away you go, you select your valve, you fit it. We won't fit it, won't buy it, you fit it when you get it. But Sun has a real wide range now of proportional valves. It's something I'm doing a lot of the time. That circuit was a pressure compensated flow control valve up to 240 litres a minute. There are solutions there. Whilst you can do directional valves, you can't do ISO subplate mounted proportional flow controls, pressure controls, reducers, reliefs, but there are Sun equivalents for this, reliefs up to 760 litres a minute. So that you're taking advantage of compactness, lightness, economy and availability as you start moving to all Sun solutions. There's one there, that's an unsung hero of our product range. We have a full range, 4 sizes, again up to 400 or 500 litres a minute. In fact, we have our 4 plus range, which I've used up to 1500 litres a minute. If you're moving and locking, logic valves, pilot controlled, is a very cost-effective way of doing it. But again, I think we get drawn up, especially with unbalanced logics, because we have to think about the pressures on the ports, because that will affect whether it's opening or closing, that people perhaps get a little bit of put off use of them. But I use them quite a lot. Right, that's it on quick design. I'm doing okay. Keeping the 40 years theme going, I was trying to think about the size of valves, solenoid valves. And I found that manual. I had that 40 years ago. It was given to me by Mr. Julian Westwood, who was the MD of Savory's, where I started my career, and he's now the non-executive chairman of Hydroforce in the UK. It was old and smelly when he gave it me. I can't find a date of print, but I started searching through that, looking for old products. And there's the blown up Rexroth advert. Yes, they were around then too. C-top 5 air gap solenoid. And I was starting in my head, there weren't really a lot of C-top 3s around at the beginning of my career. That was like a new product, smaller valve. But in fact, I mean, these are air gap, mostly control systems. We're 110, 220 volts AC at that time. But look, there is an ISO 03 valve, probably a wet pin solenoid design there, so they were out. But interestingly, there's a two-stage directional valve. There could be a size 10 there, or at least an 8. And it's got an ISO 05 pilot in it. Nobody'd do that now. So I think whatever the date was, and it's certainly 40 plus years ago, we were in this transition phase of bringing hydraulics down a little bit and the use of C-top 3s as pilot valves. Now I don't think, you see some solenoid valves, cartridge style, 250, 210 bars, they've got quite small solenoids on them. But that's the new digital valve from Sun. That's it. And I think that is something really quite different to anything that's on the market at the moment. What have we got? Well, it's a solenoid operated valve. There's our equivalent, DAAL. Forget that's an onboard amplifier on there, but that's physically, it's a switching valve. So the direct comparison of those two there. It's miniature, only 58 grams. That's 90% saving on the weight of our standard valve. High speed. You're looking at an average of 10 milliseconds. That's 4 times faster. And I don't believe our solenoids are any faster or slower than competitor solenoids in the standard format. So there's quite a lot of speed advantage. Low power consumption. There's a timer on this. 15 watts to shift, 2 watts to hold. That's again a 90% saving on our 22 watts DAAL. What we've got on offer so far are 2 valves, 2-position 2-way, normally open, normally closed versions. Available in 12 and 24, so we've got the battery side covered, and so many now control systems in mobile and industrial 24 volts DC now. That 110's almost disappeared. We've chosen a 4-pin M12 connector, which is IP69. So with the right cable and the right connector to it, you've got a valve that's good for quite harsh environments. It's essentially a 1 litre a minute to 350 bar valve. So you've got the full normal Sun 350 bar. And you see it's no more than 56 millimetres high, 41 millimetres standing above the manifold. And actually we could do something about that as well. It comes complete with 1,000 hours corrosion resistant coating. That was easy for me to say. So you put the two together, you've got a package there for marine, offshore, quite harsh environment applications. Top here, it gives an indication of response times. The blue's our digital. Conversely, there's our standard. So I don't know that our valves are any faster or slower than the competitor cartridge solenoid valves. Solenoid energizing, same again. Difference between the blue, the green and the red, showing that much faster response time. So what benefits do we get? Well, that fast response, we're seeing interest where people have low flows but precision control. We're also seeing interest there for safety systems, presses, tube manipulators and such like. If a person goes into a hazardous area, you want the system to close down quickly. So speed of response is quite important there. Low power consumption, yeah, it's going to open up to battery operated. It's either going to save us energy or extend battery life using these digital valves. Increasingly, this timer's gone crackers on me. Increasingly, when we look at a design for somebody, yes, we've got to get the control circuit correct, but increasingly there's this next phase of integrating that manifold into the machine. I think born from the emissions, machinery people now want their kit to be lower weight, smaller, so it's often a challenge to get the manifold into the machine. So if we've got a smaller valve, that's going to help us doing that. The last one is that you can drop the valve inside the manifold. So if you take that idea, you could bring the cable out, perhaps through a channel or a further drill into a gland. You could put a lid over the top, and you see where we're going here in terms of really harsh environments or perhaps even subsea. As a valve itself, some benefits with a little bit of a cautionary note about it. It's a low flow valve. Its performance is optimised, flow in there, and that's the blue lines. Opposite way, 2 to 1, the red. One thing that does come up with me, with customers will talk about, I can't do 50 litres a minute, 350 bar. Can't have the two together. Now that's not a Sun thing, that's all solenoid valves, and I may be preaching to the converted here, but that's why these corners are cut off. It's because the valve at the highest flow and the highest pressure, when it's shifting, cannot shear through the oil flow. It's about flow forces. So if you say, yes, we've got a 5 litres to 350 bar, it can't do that corner, as it were. That's where the cut-off is. If you want to use miniature hydraulics with these valves, just check the pressure drops. They're quite high as the flow goes up. So you may be able to afford that pressure drop, but it is worth checking. It's essentially a pilot valve. And here now you can see it coupled with one of our larger logic elements, with the T8 cavity styling that we offer across a whole host of our range. We're now missing that solenoid bulk on top of there. So we're bringing the bulk of a much higher flow valve down as well. Higher response, so safety circuits, again, higher flow safety circuits. We're shifting those valves quicker. We've got balanced and unbalanced logics, right up to 760 litres a minute, where we could put that pilot valve in the back of it, producing essentially what looks like a single cartridge. We've got two-way, two-position valves, pop-it valves, again, 480 litres a minute, whole range of them, where we can put the digital valve in the back of those as well. There is some conversation, though, about the digital valve's ability to cope with the pilot flows in the main stage. So if these seem of interest, I think there'll be more information on it. There may not be any issues at all. But if you do see an interest in our area, just have a word with the team. What we do know works, and works well, is if we take our digital valve and couple it with one of our DV directional valves. That's essentially a main stage with the T8 cavity in the back of it, two-position three-way. With that closed, we're in the spring position. Open that valve, it'll shift across. Now that produces a little valve in itself, but what I've done there is couple them to control a main stage. So we're now bringing the advantage and benefits of the digital valve right up to some quite high flows, but now as separate valves. We've got three-way two-position diverters up to 480 litres a minute. They're good for taking a circuit divert flow to one function or another, but also actually for double-acting applications with our cushion lock arrangements. More conventionally, the three-position four-way directional valve, so common in lots of applications, we can do those up to 320 litres a minute. That concept, rather than T8 as separate valves, so that controlling another valve opens you up to using the full range without any problems with our full range of balanced and unbalanced logics. But now it's like a two-cartridge solution to it. The valve itself, we can put two of them together with a simple circuit and a body, and we produce that valve. Four-way, three-position, spring-centred, double solenoid. We have two of these main stage sizes available, 28 litre a minute. And if you look at these assemblies, I know there's not any physical dimensions on there, but what we can see is we can actually contend an ISO 03, improve response times, and also give some flexibility over porting arrangements as well. The 60 litre a minute could well be a contender for many an ISO 05 application, bringing those benefits of the digital valve. Just to visualise a little bit, if we do couple these pairs of valves and that main stage, with our DDHC, we've got 320 litres a minute double acting application. I've brought this point here. One thing about Sun, extremely conservative in its rating. Cartridge valve can be sometimes about fit for purpose, but sacrifices in terms of higher pressure drops for economy and physical size. But just to qualify that DDHC will deliver you 320 litres a minute with a P to A plus beta T of 20 bar. That's a serious contender to an ISO 07. I've doubled these up to be serious contender for ISO 08s. But just to show you there, the physical mass that could be in a custom manifold, this is a line-mounted valve, but we're bringing that mass and weight down by removing those large solenoids that we would have with standard solenoid valves. I've got a couple of applications in the UK, which if you don't mind, I'm going to talk to you about, especially while this gentleman's in the room here. Yes. But now internationally, it's gaining favour in the agricultural sector and seed drills, and they're taking advantage of the low holding power and the fast response of the valves. Right, last but not least, selecting counterbalance valves, the perennial problem. So many to pick from. A lot of applications it doesn't matter too much, but on some applications it really is critical. I'm going to quick look at the families of the valves that we've got. I won't dwell on it too much. The CB counterbalance valve, proven technology. It's probably the valve that's out there globally more than any other valve. Some probably still suggest it's the largest supplier of cartridge valves globally, and in particular counterbalance valves. But that CB technology is proven and has become a bit of an industry benchmark. It comes in a whole host of varieties of pilot ratios, spring adjustment, seals, and also that you can use valves. The Series 1 is normally a 60 litre a minute valve, but we've got versions with our restrictive and ultra restrictive that will take us down to around 8 litres a minute and give good motion control. If you want to take those benefits on smaller flows and save some energy, our load adaptive range. They'll deliver on high cycling applications 30% energy saving. That can be fuel, that can be battery life. Vented valves. A lot of people will use CBs and have problems. Vented valves come in where we've got pressure on port 2 of the valve. These valves are tolerant of that. So meter out proportional systems, regenerative systems, master-slave cylinder arrangements, they can give you issues if you haven't got a vented valve. We will promote the use of 4-port. That's where we've got a separate drain line coming from the valve back to tank. The irony being, we will also promote that you should put the counterbalance valve as near as you can to the actuator. Best control, best safety. But that does mean you've got to run another line back from the actuators, collect them together and back to the tank, which is more cost and can be inconvenient. That's where our atmospheric valve comes in. So we're breathing at the valve to the atmosphere. We tend to think of them as problem solvers because people will put a CB in on a meter out proportional system and they'll have problems. It's the same cavity, you can swap it over, it'll take away your problem. And they are used on hosts of applications. But there's one thing just to remember with those is within the valve you've got an oil chamber and you've got an air chamber. And between them you've got a wet seal. So over time the dry side becomes wet too. And you can see witness of that on the exterior of the valve. Still fine for lots of applications, people will tolerate that, but beware, it's not a problem with the valve. Everybody's vented atmosphere valve will do this in time. Jumping up in technology becomes our load reactive M valves. These are very different valves by design. They're almost seated flow control valves. In fact, you can use them as proportional flow controls. They're extremely low gain. This is where the accuracy or dynamic control, modulating control comes in. Available again in different options, but these are ideal where there's flow and pressure variations and greater machine instability. Our premium product is Load Match. That has all the benefits of the M valves. It will deliver the same energy saving as the Load Adaptive, and it's commissioning free. It self-sets. There's no adjustment to be made on it. It's what appears to be a fixed valve as far as the installer or commissioner is concerned. So, the programme. It's on the website. Go into the highlights if you want to look at what it's about and what it's going to do for you. Swing along on the highlights to the new Quick Select. Go in and there's a full explanation. There then will be the links for you to give it a go. If you've done that and you have an understanding of what you're doing now, actually if you just go into counterbalance valves, cartridge counterbalance valves, it'll give the option of going in to the Quick Select program anyway. It's all about filtering through 5 key questions. The first being, is it a modulating valve or a locking valve? Locking valve, pilot operated check valves. Modulating, bit of a sun thing with us, isn't it? Well, we didn't put counterbalance in there, but modulating means we're looking at our range of counterbalance valves. We've then got 4 more questions. Picking the flow, I've picked the 60 litre a minute. The pressure range, a lot of our valves up to 280 bar setting, but we do have them suitable above. So we're just picking out that, filtering out that, the flow, the pressure setting that you require, and whether you want that vented or not. Then you come to pilot ratio. Now this is probably the most difficult area. I've picked 3:1 just for this example, our most common pilot ratio. It's brought me down to 5 selections. I can click on and go to the page and complete the part number. If I'm still unsure of the technicalities, go to the technical tips. And there is explanation plus, again, an in-depth video about selecting counterbalance valves. Just on the issue then of pilot ratios. So with the technology that Sun uses, a 3:1 valve will do lots and lots of applications in terms of that pilot ratio. But looking to the right, how does pilot ratio affect our selection? Well, we know if the pilot ratio is lower, it'll give us more stability. But it will be less energy efficient because we're increasing the pilot pressure to operate it. Now, if you think of this, a counterbalance valve is not efficient anyway. It offers you control, but you have to use energy to lower a load that would come down under its own weight anyway. So it's not an efficient valve. But if you're looking for energy savings, you want to try and get that pilot ratio as high as you can. Again, save fuel, increase battery life. So you have that dilemma of getting the right balance between stability and pilot ratio. What are the things that would make you concern yourself about pilot ratio? Well, a lot of applications are fine, but some are critical. Change in geometry, an articulated boom. The pressures are changing in the system. It may even go from a positive to a negative load over centre. And it's all about the valve coping with this. Changing load. A machine will act very differently laden or unladen. And so think about that. Changing speed. This is the homeland of the M valves. If you want a fast approach, creep into position, that's where the M valve technology starts to pay for itself. Machine instability. A quick note on that. We'll have customers say we've got a problem with instability on our machine, there's a problem with your valve. My 50p goes on, if we take that valve and test it, it's fine. Selection of counterbalance valve is about getting the right one to compensate for the instability in the machine when you try to get it under control. It's not the valve. So this is the essence of the selection. If you've got a production machine, the normal practice would be is to, at prototype stage, perhaps start with a 3:1. And then change them to see until you've got the ideal mix of pilot ratio, stability and energy efficiency, and then go forward into production. But what we're finding increasingly in the heavier engineering project type world, people are more so taking advantage of the load match valve because it can cope with all those variants. Plus, it's got a saving in terms of commissioning, worries about valves being changed through the manufacturing process, so when you start commissioning, you're not sure what the setting is. And remember, these valves are holding loads, so there's a safety angle as well. So a valve that doesn't have to be changed, set, is a safer valve. And more people are making that investment and going to this premium load match product. Right, that's me. Does anybody know of Murphy and Innovation? All right, this is very popular in the mobile industry. It's a company that Sun has acquired in the last few months. It's showing the direction of Sun heavily into hydraulics, but also now into controls, the brain of the controls and the brawn of the hydraulics coming together. I haven't got anything here, it is that new, but if anyone has any interest, any questions about it, Haddon is here from Innovation Today out in the exhibition area. All right, quickly, any questions? Think at all? You find that useful? No, thank you for that. All right, well, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Cheers.